Greg, really? Really? I should probably cut that part. That's a terrible intro, Brett. This is a terrible intro. It's gonna look like you're attacking him, which is not how this video is supposed to go. Anyways, so this is my response to Science Studio's video on JayzTwoCents tweet about miners and all of their issues and how big mining operations are at blame, aren't to blame, and who knows what's actually going on. I just wanted to throw my hat into the ring because, you know, I watched Greg's video on this topic and it seemed like there was a few things that I had some issues with. Things that I wanted to point out that might not necessarily be readily apparent, but then also can add to the dialogue of the conversation that's happening because, well, not now it's a trialogue because I'm forcing myself into the conversation. Well, whether or not you guys actually want to respond to me, doesn't matter. So I'm gonna monologue. I'm gonna basically monologue this entire thing because I'm talking to myself at this point. I'm talking to the camera. I'm talking to the audience. Anyways, so JayzTwoCents posted a picture on Twitter of the Z-Mine miner operation, which posted a lot of graphics cards, over 1,000 graphics cards, just in one giant stack for a mining operation that they're doing. And Jay says that it's not the average miner who's to blame for everything that's going on. It's these types of people that are the problem. It's these shenanigizers, these ones who buy all of the giant mountains of graphics cards. They're the ones who are causing all the stock issues and all the pricing gouging. It's their fault. And Greg, you apparently did not agree with that, and I would actually agree with you on that point. So I think, like, on the general aspect of what you said of I wouldn't necessarily agree that this is a problem. This is about capitalism. This is about a supply and demand economy. This is about people who found a way to make money, and they're absolutely doing it. 100% with you on that. I personally have no problems with small miners. Big miners, doesn't matter. It's not my place to get involved. I can endorse people wanting to find ways to make money that are really lucrative and that don't necessarily violate any ethics standards, except for, you know, the whole, you know, power consumption thing. That one's still up for debate with global warming and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, moving on. So Greg, you pointed out in your analogy to talk about the difference between big miners and small miners, paraphrasing everything you said. And of course, I'm going to quote some of this wrong because I just watched your video and so I have to reframe it through my brain. But basically, your idea was that if one party is guilty, then therefore the other party is guilty. That's why you used an analogy of somebody pickpocketing versus somebody robbing a bank. You used a crime to indicate that this is what mining is like. And you explained that, of course, that you don't think that mining is stealing. It's just that a lot of people, a lot of gamers happen to think that miners are stealing their GPUs. So the analogy that theft comes into play makes a whole lot of sense, except for the fact that I can't agree with that analogy at all. And not all analogies are fallible. They break down at some point because they can't be perfect. They're analogies. If they were perfect, then they'd be an explanation. But analogies, they're comparatives, and so they can't always work correctly in all circumstances. But I would argue that the basic premise of your analogy doesn't even work with whatever else you said in your video. So you pointed out that small miners, average Jimmy Joe Bob Tom in his garage with 6 GPUs, is violating the same principle as Z-Miner with its 1,500 new order of GPUs plus all of the 10,000s that they already have. They're in the same category. And that would be true if your analogy was correct. If there was a threshold that they had to cross in order to be culpable for their sins, then yes, they are both at fault here, which is where your analogy of violating the law would work. If you step over the line, even a fraction of a millimeter of the law, you are now a criminal. You have violated the law. You have crossed the boundary. You are now responsible for the issues at hand. And that simply isn't true. You argued that mining isn't a problem. Mining isn't unethical. Mining isn't something that crosses any boundaries. If you buy these GPUs, you're allowed to do with them whatever you will. You're allowed to mine with them. You're allowed to game with them. Heck, you're even allowed to just lick them on a live stream. Not like anybody ever do that. But it's a terrible analogy because it breaks down even at the base level. There's no boundaries to cross that make both people culpable. There are systemic issues at play which gamers are upset with that I don't think the 1 to 6 card or 1 to 20 card miner, in the Enthusiast miner who has this rig at home, they're not to blame anywhere at all. Not even like on the same scale as the giant mining operations. They're not in the same conversation. So let me give you an analogy of my own. I think this is the one that I have used a lot for mining, and I think it fits pretty well. So let's say I'm 6'2", I'm pretty skinny. Let's just imagine for a second that I'm 750 pounds, right? I don't know how wide I'd be at 750 pounds, but I weigh a heck of a lot more than I should. I'm gratuitously obese. I have months to live, if that, and like my lifestyle is not very healthy. I eat Doritos and Mountain Dew for my freaking, wake up coffee, and then I chase it with a can of whipped cream, some chocolate chip. Sounds delicious. But why am I so fat? Why do I weigh 750 pounds? Is it my calorie intake? Absolutely. But what are the other problems? Well, it's also my calorie expenditure. I'm not working out. It's also my sedentary lifestyle. It's also my mindset. It's my thoughts, my upbringing, all of these things that are hindering me from actually taking care of my body. It's not just one thing. It's all of these collective factors. However, let's say I want to eat a cookie. I'm 750 pounds, I want to eat a cookie. That is a sign of the systemic problem that I already have. Eating that cookie means that I'm just basically throwing my life away. It means that I am giving in to all of the same urges that I've already have. That cookie represents a whole lot of stuff. But current Brett, 6'2", 165 pounds, slim, works out, runs like this Brett, if I eat a cookie, it's not a problem even in the slightest. There is nothing wrong with me eating a cookie. It's no indication of my physical health. It's no indication of my mental health. It's no indication of my energy levels. It has nothing to do with anything besides the fact that I want some sweet dancing chocolate chips tasting on my rain buds. Raining on my taste buds. Anyways, it's nothing besides a pleasure for me. Because why? The system in which it's happening. The cookie is mining. The cookie is what's happening here. The cookie in 6'2", 265 pound Brett system means nothing. This has caused no obesity. This is causing no issues. This is causing nothing. This cookie is just a delicious cookie. This cookie in the hands of 750 pound Brett is a sign of everything that is wrong with my life and everything that I should probably stop doing. It's the cookie, it's the mining that is not the problem. Those are non-factors, and I think you agreed with this in the rest of your video. It's just the analogy that you used at the beginning of the video didn't really set you up for agreeing with the end of yourself. Or yourself at the end of the video, which is something you also called Jay out for. You thought that his argument at the end of his tweet wasn't lining up with everything else he was saying, and I think you suffer from the same thing in your video. My thoughts, anyways. But I think we can agree that it's the systemic problems that are happening. It is the manufacturers, it is Nvidia and AMD who are selling directly by the boatload to miners directly, or by the plane load, as some rumors might go. You're selling massive amounts, large quantities directly to these mining operations because they pay cash, they collect instantly, and they just make your bottom line look really good. You have tons of revenue, which you argued, Greg, that this wasn't a problem. This is something that Nvidia and AMD both want. They don't care about the gamer, they don't care about the average Joe, they just care, what are we selling, how much are we selling it, and is our stockholders happy? Which I argue is also not true. It's just not the bare reality of facts when it comes to how companies work. If it was the case that Nvidia and AMD only cared about their bottom line revenue, why would they both make public statements to the effect that they both care about gamers and not miners? They want their gamers prioritized over miners because they're trying to save face. Why would they be trying to save face if their shareholders are happy and they're selling more than ever? Why would they be trying to save face in the midst of great sales? Because public perception matters even when your bottom line is really good. This is the same thing that we're seeing with Facebook right now. They're in a whole slew of a thunder crap storm where basically nothing changed about their business model, but their ads are still doing as well as ever. Their profits are still as good as ever. But people are hashtag delete Facebook and their shares are plummeting. Everything is going wrong for Facebook because of the negative perception of what happened with Cambridge Analytica. The leaked information or the sold information or however that worked, not getting into that specifically, the idea that public perception creates the reality for the shareholders is something that really matters for mining here. When the public perception, not gamers, when the public perception of cryptocurrencies is that it's for illicit, illegal, and nefarious means, it's something that Nvidia and AMD always have to hedge their bets against. They can't say, we are going in all in on cryptocurrency mining because this is where we're making the most amount of money. When the mainstream media and the average Susie on the street indicates when they speak about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies that they're used for buying children and human trafficking and prostitution and guns and illegal drugs and everything on the black internet, the dark web, or whatever that's called, that's when we have a problem with not just what is happening with the bottom line and who they're selling them to, but what they're actually being used for. And this extends to also the average Joe gamer who has an issue with the fact that Nvidia is selling graphics cards directly by the truckload to game miners, and AMD is also doing the same, and these AIB partners are doing the same. Zotac, Asus, MSI, they're all selling directly to miners, anecdotally at least. I have no evidence of this, but that is the common expression that's happening right now, is that they are selling directly to miners. But what happens when average Joe gamer talks to other average Joe gamer who talks to average Jane gamer who talks to their friends and their friends and their friends, and then you have this whole huge public outcry about, hey, AMD and Nvidia are not prioritizing their core customers, but rather they're prioritizing people who do these illicit and evil and rapscallion looking things over here. Well, then you get into the place where Nvidia and AMD have to say, oh, no, we're not doing that. Of course we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't side with miners. Why would we? All we're doing is making billions more than we ever were before. Why would we side with them? No, we prioritize you, gamers. They're going to have to say that because public perception, branding, marketing, all of that matters just as much as the bottom line that's happening. And so when, Greg, you say that it doesn't matter what we think, we don't matter as much to Nvidia and AMD as these miners, I would disagree. I think that we, as the collective of the average Joes, you and I, Greg, you and I, our audiences, we could motivate Nvidia and AMD to move in ways that go against the amount of profit that they're making because the public perception looks bad. Which is why companies can fold even at the brink of a slight scandal that happens with their CEO. If something comes out in the news that affects the public perception of the CEO and the company itself, regardless of how sound their sales are, their team is, everything that's going on within the organizational structure, no matter how sound that is, it's going to fall like a house of cards because nobody believes in them anymore. And if they're a publicly traded company, you need that belief as well as the underlying business model to make things work. And so that's something that actually matters. If gamers wanted to revolt against Nvidia and AMD and say that we refuse to do anything about this until you stop your nefarious ways with working with miners, they could actually get something done. The issue is that many miners are gamers as well, and so you don't have the whole collective working together to stop this illicit purpose, but rather they're split. And so we don't see any development that way, but we do get rumblings of it, which is why Nvidia and AMD will discuss this. Those are my points. This is what I think I can add to this conversation. I want this to be a discussion. Greg, you mentioned at the beginning of your video that you're open to discussion, and this is kind of my attempt at bringing that to you in a video form that just hopefully we can chat about this. I don't know. I think your overall point of it being about sales and money and supply and demand and systemic issues and not necessarily mining farm versus the little man, to some extent I can agree with you. I understand that this is completely business, and I hold nothing against Nvidia and AMD. I hold nothing against miners. I hold nothing against gamers. I can empathize with everybody on every situation here. And so I get why Jay is upset. I get why you're responding in the way that you do. I get why people in the comments are so viscerally opposed to anything that is mining. It makes sense to me because we're taking something away from them that they feel that they should have. And it doesn't matter whether or not they're owed it. They feel as if they've worked hard for it. And that's something that can be empathized with. And that's where I'm coming with all of this perspective. Anyways, I'm going to end the video there. Thank you so much, Greg, for giving me the opportunity to at least discuss this with you. Thank you for letting me chat with you. And that's going to be it for the Science Studio response portion. This is going to be the sign off that has to do with the UFD Tech people, the subscribers, everybody who's watching, who's my fan base. I just want to say thank you guys so much for sticking with me while I'm on the road. I am in Washington, D.C. for just a couple more days, been on the road for 7 weeks now, not staying in a place for more than 3 days at a time. So that's why these videos are like this, why there's a freaking mirror walls all around me in a hotel room. Just, this is what I got. This is what I'm going to make videos with. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me. I appreciate it. Smash the like button if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed these types of open discussions to the tech community and specific tech YouTubers in specific. That makes sense. Get subscribed to stay up to date on all of our tech-related content. I am Brett with UFD Tech Channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all in the next video. Oh, just kick the camera. Cheers.